Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We'll get started in just a minute. All right, let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to today. We're going to talk about the tips and strategies on completing your summer programs and applications. I know this is a very popular topic right now, especially given that it's about to be February in 2 days. And I'm sure many other families are trying to figure out what are we going to do this summer, right? And like many of y'all, you're probably interested about the summer programs and what is it that you should apply to. Well, stay to the very end. I really encourage you to do that because we're going to give you all a lot of resources about the different types of summer programs that we might recommend along with ways for you to increase your chances to get in. Okay. So for today, what we're going to be focusing on is why summer programs matter. Essentially, why is it so important for y'all to even consider planning for the summer? Key components to a winning application, because if you didn't know, thousands and tens of thousands of students are probably applying to the same program, right? So how can you stand out with that? We're going to talk about timeline and strategy about what you can do right now to be able to make sure that you can maximize your chances. Some common mistakes about what we've seen from summer applications that we review. We review hundreds of applications almost every single time, and we always provide so much feedback because there's a lot of things that people don't realize that they're doing wrong. And lastly, a lot of resources and recommendations. So stay to the very end so that way y'all can get access to all of them resources. Okay. So I know we have a lot of people coming in right now, more than about 120 people or so. If y'all wanted to do me a favor and would love to be able to see what high school graduation year you are in the chat, just so that I know how to cater to this audience. Also, if you do have any questions throughout this entire time, just drop it in the Q&A box and we'll be able to answer it as soon as we can. And also replay and notes will be available at the very end. So if you can't stay till the very end, don't worry, we'll be able to send that to you as well. Uh, Quick introduction to myself, if you haven't met me already. I'm Coach Victor with College Admission Secrets, or EagleLock. That's our new branding now. I was a former UC Berkeley admissions outreach coordinator and instructor, and that's actually where I learned admissions with Coach Tony. Fun fact, me and Coach Tony learned admissions together way back in the day. And from there, I was going to different high schools and being able to present about how to get into college, UC Berkeley, into UCs, and also just generally higher education overall. Also, fun fact for myself, I was a full ride UC Berkeley scholar for undergrad and graduate school. So kind of a preview for a little bit later, but I'm going to do a webinar in the future about how I got a full ride to undergrad and graduate school. And because of that, you can trust that I know how to write these applications since I've been doing it for so long now. And lastly, in terms of my background, by experience, I used to work in K through 12 education policy, education technology, and also as an admissions advisor right now. So just know that all this information will be very relevant to you all right now, trying to prepare your kids for college admissions. So let's dig into it. And let's first start off with why college admissions, why summer programs matter. But quick question first, okay? Are summer programs required for top tier schools admissions? All right, there's a quiz. Write in the chat, yes or no. What do you think? Yes, no, no, yes. Okay, we're 50-50%. Yes, yes, no. All right. So it seems like we're a little bit split here, right? And I imagine the rest of y'all probably don't want to answer because you don't really know. So let me talk about what the answer is. The answer is no. You actually do not need a summer program in order to enter to a top tier school admissions. It is helpful, yes, right? And it shows a lot of like taking initiative to be able to learn about your particular major, about your career that you want to do, but it's not necessarily required because think of it this way. If it was a requirement to join a summer program for a top tier school's admission, we would have a very, very small pool of people being able to get into schools. And there's many students that do get into these top tier schools without doing a summer program. So the question is, what is a summer program really for, right? So one way that we can think of it is that summer programs, improves your chances for college and for your college admissions. Yes, that's very true. And the reason why it does that is because it helps students learn what they actually want to do. Remember, when you're applying to college, right, what matters the most is why do you actually want to study this particular field? And how do you know that based off what you're doing at the very moment? So when it comes to the summer programs, it helps students to be able to figure that out because they have that exposure. Sometimes you don't actually need it, and you could just do a passion project or personal project or do things at home to be able to increase your learning. But if you don't have any good options at home to learn from, then a summer program is excellent for you to be able to consider. Also, the career benefits, the exposure to potential career paths. Okay, it's understandable that when you're a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, or all in a high school age, you don't really know what particular career that you want to go for. So for the summer programs, it can be very helpful for students to understand which direction do I want to go towards. I had a family who I was talking to today. Maybe you're part of this participants right now, but they were saying how their kid is interested in economics and business, and they weren't really sure if they're really certain about it. I was talking to the student yesterday and they were saying like, yes, like I really want to do business and really want to do economics. But the mom was like, no, I don't think so. I don't really think he does. I think he's just kind of like defaulting to that. Well, that's the point about the summer programs. It's to help kind of clarify for the student, does it really, is this really what you want to do? Because if you apply to this major, right, remember that with admissions that we talk about for a long time now, depending on which pathway or which major you decide to go into, they're going to be looking for specific things, specific academics and specific activities. So think of your activities or your summer program as a way to kind of understand, is this something that you really want to dedicate yourself to? So let's talk about the types of summer programs though, because not all summer programs are created equal. There's academic ones. There's the ones that help you kind of do more research and help you get a sense about what the academia setting is like. So some universities such as Stanford or Harvard have pre-college programs where you're able to experience college for maybe like a few weeks. So that way you can have a better sense of whether this is the university that you want to go to. Does that summer program specific? Okay, I get this question all the time. Does this summer program, by going to a pre-college program at Harvard, for example, does that really increase my chances to be able to go to Harvard? The answer is actually no. Okay, you don't necessarily like by going to one of these pre-college programs doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have one additional point or an additional benefit on your application. Sure, it might make it easier for you to talk about why Harvard when you're doing your supplemental apps, but it's not necessarily something that is like a requirement for you to be able to have an advantage to be able to go into that college. Okay, so those are examples of the academic kind of summer programs. The second part is career oriented. So internships or shadowing are all great examples where you're working for a company to get some kind of work-based knowledge and experience. So this is very helpful for students who are trying to be able to figure out, right, what they want to do and what potential career paths do they want to go into. And so also thinking as phases, right? More than likely, a lot of students aren't qualified for an internship right away, right? Many of y'all have probably experienced my internship webinar in the past, but there's three different phases of internships. The first is shadowing, second is project-based learning, and third is the actual internships. If you're a student that has no skills right now, right, which is likely the case, then more likely you're just going to go shadowing for now, okay? Later on, once you do become a junior or senior, it's more likely that you can qualify for internships because you actually have some experiences. That's why a lot of internships require you to be at least a junior at minimum to be able to apply. Third is the leadership and service ones. So volunteering programs, fellowship. So this is more local based. So for example, there might be city government, there might be nonprofits in your area where you can volunteer and participate. And even like, for example, the animal shelter, right? There's a lot of these opportunities available that aren't typically advertised. I'd say the leadership and service ones are the ones where there's a lot more opportunities, but you're not going to find them online. You would actually have to go out and be able to talk to these organizations, and more likely they have something already available. Because the thing about service and leadership ones is that they're always looking for help. They always need some type of volunteer. They always need some type of support on the ground level. Like for example, the local animal shelter in San Jose, they're always understaffed and they're always looking for volunteers. And the last one is passion based. So art, sports, music. So this is like to explore and to be able to just participate in things that students just love doing, right? As a hobby, right? And these could be good as well if these are the kind of programs that you're looking for. So and let's talk about what the next thing, which is how do you know which summer program that you actually want to go to and which one actually matters the most here, okay? So in terms of choosing the right question or the right program, sorry, the question to ask yourself is, what is my learning objective? What is my current challenge? The way I break it down to, there's three particular issues that students typically face. There's an awareness issue, a skills issue, and a motivation issue. Okay. So first off, with awareness, right? I don't know what careers or majors out there. There's a lot of the case where students tend to say, like, I don't know what I don't know. And the problem is like you can't really choose a career, you can't really choose a major or anything of that sort unless you are actually aware of what exists in the world. And so, in order for you to actually create your pathway or to understand what pathway is right for you, you have to develop an awareness of what are the options out there. So, if your learning objective is about awareness, then that would determine a particular type of internship, which we'll talk about. The second type of issue that students might tend to have is that they don't have enough skills or experiences to do the job. And in this case, right, is that you are aware of what is it that you want to do. But the thing is, you need to kind of develop the skills to be able to be eligible for those roles, right? It's like, for example, if you're interested in being an engineer, it's like it's likely that you still need to learn coding. You need to learn how to code and work with technology. And for these particular skills, right, you can develop it either through your academics or in an academic program, and also through like an internship, for example, or through like job shadowing. That's like those are ways to be able to improve your skill sets there. And the last bit is motivation. If you have a student that says, I don't feel like doing anything this summer, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to do whatever the case is, and it's just like motivation is the challenge here where unless you have motivation, you're not going to be able to push your student to be more aware of what they want to do or develop the skills that they need to develop in order to be academically or career ready. And so for this motivation piece, there's also summer programs that can help with that particular issue. So let's dive into each one, for example. Okay. So let's start with awareness issues. So awareness issues where you don't know what careers or majors are out there. Some potential programs that can help you there is one, career exploration programs, right? Similarly, as I mentioned, there's a lot of career-based internships, volunteering, shadowing. Those are all great ways to be able to get a better sense of what is it that you might want to do. Also, some people don't realize, but going to career fairs as well, even though it's not necessarily like a full-on program that would be over a few weeks, just by going out to career fairs and seeing like, and you can actually look up like on those, I don't know, like Ticketmaster or some other kinds of local-based events where you can find career fairs that are free, where essentially just by going out there and being exposed to all the different types of jobs out there, that could be helpful for students to be able to reflect and say like, hey, that booth actually looks pretty interesting. I want to go there and check it out. Like, what does this job actually mean? Okay. Some other programs that could be helpful here is the pre-college programs. So the Harvard pre-college, the Stanford summer session, those are great ways to be able to just learn more about the particular majors out there. Because when you're in these pre-college programs, they're not just orienting you to the actual college campus, but they're orienting you about the ways that you can study or things that you can major in the future. Informational interviews and job shouting. I think this is one of the biggest opportunities that people don't realize is so easy to do. So informational interviews is where you interview a professional out there. And instead of you going in for a job interview where you're trying to apply for a role, think of it as you're trying to do some research. You're trying to learn more from different people, professionals out there by asking them for a quick 15 to 30-minute call to learn more about their job and what do they do. And just by being able to do that, right, students gain a lot more knowledge in those 30 minutes as opposed to like a full-on internship, for example. Like, let's say, for example, like a student says that I'm very interested in majoring in computer science, so I could be a software engineer. Well, what if they have a question of like, I don't really know if I want to be a software engineer, so what can I do about that? Well, the best place to kind of start is have them talk to a software engineer, right? Maybe you're a parent right now and you're a software engineer. You could probably connect them with a few of your peers at work or your colleagues at work where they can learn directly from them. The easiest way and fastest way to get information is just through informational interviews. And you might not necessarily need a full-on summer program to really validate, do I want to be a software engineer? So some people don't realize that it's not just necessarily the summer experience, right, of like a 4-week, 5-week program. It's about the learning that you could do. And you can do much more learning in a short amount of time if you know how to prioritize your time through informational interviews. Industry-specific workshops, such as STEM boot camps, they tend to be like available here and there. And so there might be ones about like STEM, some about like technology, some about like medical. So there's a lot of boot camps that focus on those industry specific things and also volunteering as well. I already covered about volunteering, but there's a lot of local based volunteering options available. So let's go next up about the skills. Okay. So if you don't have the skills or experience to do the job, the kind of first place to kind of start is the internships and apprenticeships. Okay. So that's obviously where you're actually working at a employer-based company and that you're trying to be able to gain experience. Also, you can do project-based learning or research in lab, meaning that you are developing, you're practicing a skill that is used in the workforce, and you can also volunteer to do research to be able to help a professor. So, for example, a way that we've helped students is we help them message professors at their local community college or maybe a four-year college, sometimes even a UC, to be like, hey, I'm a high school student. I'm very interested in like biology or something of that sort. And I would really love to be able to participate in like sitting in your classes and maybe helping you out on your research. And some students are actually able to be able to do that. So you never know about like the local based opportunities, such as reaching out to your professors. Hackathons and competitions are other things as well, where you can participate in those, where you're competing in a team to be able to build something from a prompt. Freelancing or gig work. Another thing that people don't realize is what is a skill or experience that your student, or if you're the student yourself, what is it that you can actually do for other people and maybe make some money off of it? So let's say if you're an artist or you're like a designer or of some sort, and you can create like digital art. What if you were able to sell your stuff on Upwork or Etsy? And like you can be able to learn a lot about business and also design because you're practicing those skills, right? You don't necessarily need to be a part of a summer program to kind of do this. You can kind of just do it yourself because you're learning on the spot. And you could just like watch YouTube videos to be able to figure out what is it that you could do to improve your business. Online certification courses are also another thing. Going to Coursera or Udemy, just by being able to look up online courses and get certifications, you're learning about the different types of education pathways that aren't typically available at the school. So that's another example as well. Lastly is the motivation piece. I don't feel like doing anything this summer, and this is sometimes the hardest ones in regards to supporting students, right? If you find that your student is unmotivated, then really the case here is like you got to spark some type of joy out of them. You got to be able to get them to just get out of the house and look forward to doing something. So some ways are kind of think of it as like enrichment exposure programs. So for example, travel and cultural exchange programs where you're able to kind of go to a different country, maybe go to a different state and just have them experience like different types of cultures, right? This could be done even with your family. Traveling with your family can also count as a summer experience, just so you know. We've helped a lot of students and write their essays, and some of their essays, they would talk about how they traveled with their family and saw like the different conditions of like a different country and how they felt compelled to be able to support them, right? That's an example of an enrichment experience where they can go out, see the world for what it is, and then that motivates them to do something in the future, whether that's in college or post college. So that's why that traveling can also be a benefit as well. Sports and outdoor adventures, creative arts and media programs, service learning and mission trips, and mentorship and coaching programs. All this stuff kind of reflects more with like the arts or like with sports, right? Sports is totally a great way to be able to participate in the summer. Something to consider though is what is the student actually learning from these particular programs? And one of the things is I got a question earlier today, about whether does it make sense for my kid to participate in 4 years of sports? All right. And does that help with the college admissions process? Well, yes and no. Yes, it's great to be able to show like activities, and we care about high activity hours and being able to show consistency. But also at the same time, what is important is what are you actually learning about it? Or what are you actually learning about yourself or about the particular fields that you want to go into? If you're applying to college, right? And let's say you're applying to physiology or like you want to study kinesiology, those kinds of majors, right, are connected to sports because it's a lot about like your own health and such, and they're able to make that connection with their sports that you're doing right now. But let's just say if you're doing a totally different major, such as like English or something of that sort, and you're doing like 4 years of sports, well, something I would question is like, okay, what did you learn from that experience, and how does it translate to what you learn about yourself? Or what is it that relates to English? And the English part might be a little bit more difficult, but at least you can still talk about your character development. And so character development is also something that we still look for within the college admissions process that you could write about. Okay. Let's go to the next piece, which is the key components to a winning application. Okay. So in terms, there's a lot of strategy when it comes to applications. And actually it's very similar to the college admissions process, but there's a few kind of ways to be able to increase your chances even better because you have more information compared to the college admissions process. So before you begin, though, the first thing is you want to investigate before writing. Oh, sorry. How much information gathering did you do? Did you look at the website to be able to understand about what this program is all about? Have you seen testimonials about who are the students that go through the program, and also what do they get out of it? Alumni, is there people that you can talk to be able to learn more about what their experience was like? And also webinars. Have they conducted any webinars that are worthwhile to be able to watch? So the whole point here, right, is to understand who are the profile of applicants that they accept. And there's probably a lot of information that you can get just from looking at the students that they accept. If you look at 5 students that get accepted to this program, what is the common denominator across all of them? Because it's likely that they'll accept people that share that same kind of profile, right? And usually they actually are very explicit on the website, like, hey, we are looking for people who know for sure that they want to do engineering and that they want to work in the tech industry, for example. Sometimes they'll say those things, and you'll have better information about how to tailor your application. A lot of students, what they tend to do is that they start writing before they investigate. And the thing is, you have to understand what is it that they're actually looking for? What do they want out of a student that is an ideal candidate for this program? Because they're looking at 1,000 applications, and really they're really only accepting like maybe 50 to 100. So it's a really small amount. So they got really good at filtering students out based off their criteria. So understand the system, understand the criteria, and understand how they filter. The next part is filtering the dots or connecting the dots. Once you understand what the profile applicants are looking for, then you can connect it to yourself. So imagine that you are able to identify what are the attributes or the ideal characteristics that they have of their applicants or their people who participate. And so for you, your goal as a student is to be able to figure out, like, how do I connect with that? How is it that I fulfilled these particular requirements that we typically see within the students that apply to this particular program? And so by making those connections, right, you show that you are a great fit for the program. And from there, once you are able to figure out what the attribute that you're looking for, the next part is developing that compelling story. And there's a very helpful framework called STAR, situation, task, action, result. If you're a parent, you probably are familiar with this from doing many interviews, maybe yourself. And the goal here, right, is to make sure that you're able to connect to the specific things that you did that relate to this attribute to prove that you do have this particular characteristic. Because let's say like they're looking for people who are very invested or interested in engineering, right? Yes, you could say like, I'm very interested in engineering at the very top and just kind of keep it at that surface level, but they want to know like, okay, how in depth or how much of an impact or what is the intensity of that particular attribute. So the way to kind of describe it is first you start with the situation, right? So think about like whether it's your volunteer experience, whether it's about your academic experience or something that you do in a student club, introduce the situation or the challenge that relates to this particular attribute. So maybe they're looking for people who are innovators, right? And for this innovation particular attribute, maybe you could think of a situation where you had to come up with a complex solution or some type of difficult or address a difficult problem that no one else knew how to solve for. So try to describe the situation of what it was. So for example, like, oh, I was in this particular club, and then we ran into this issue where we had to build this robotic machine to be able to battle against other bots. And the challenge here is that we were limited to a certain amount of resources. And because of that, I had to figure out what was it that I could do to create a blueprint that would match that particular criteria. So that's a task right here. The task is, what were you required to achieve, right? What was the goal of that situation, and what was your role? What was the purpose? And then from there, the most important things are the A and the R, the action and the result. How did you overcome the challenge, right? Which is essentially what you explain what you did. How did you come up with the solution? And then results of what was the outcome of your actions, right? So just by being able to piece this together in this particular framework, this helps you be able to clearly describe about how do you actually match up with this attribute, okay? So just know that you should be thinking about what are the different stories I could tell for each of the attributes that they're looking for. And that's kind of the way that you want to package it together to show that you are a perfect fit for this. Because it's more than likely that for this attribute, they are looking for people who can do the same type of activities, accomplish the same goals, and really share the same kind of values as the applicant pool they're looking for. All right. The next part is the letters of recommendation. So can your recommender talk about these attributes? So this is when it comes to how do you find the right person to advocate on behalf of you, okay? So first off, you want to consider if it's academic or professional reference, okay? The thing for letters of rec is you have to understand what's the first off, what's the program, right? If the program is more of a career readiness kind of thing, where you're doing an internship and work-based like kind of knowledge, then maybe the professional reference is the best one. If you're looking for like joining a lab or going for a pre-college program, the academic reference would make sense. The difference between academic and professional, academic is about your kind of someone who could talk about your study habits, your skills, your interest in a particular subject. And the professional reference is someone who could talk about your work habits and whether if you're a reliable person and if you just show up to work and that you demonstrate a lot of I don't know, professionalism in the sense, right? So consider about who is the right type of reference here that you're looking for. Next is the sentiment level, meaning that uh, how much does this person actually like you? There's at times where some people don't realize that the person they ask for a letter of recommendation doesn't really like them that much. Like, sure, you might have a good relationship with you, but do they like you enough to really dedicate the time to develop a letter of recommendation? Because I've read some letter of recommendations that have been very terrible, where they actually feel like they're like it doesn't feel like they're even trying to advocate on behalf of you. So make sure that their sentiment level is very high in this case, where they actually want to invest into your future. Third is duration of engagement. How long have you known them? Because ideally, you want to be able to have someone that's known you for at least like more than 3 months so that they can be able to advocate on your behalf because they've seen the progress and the change and your capability. And lastly, confidence in the writing skill. Okay. Uh, this is something that some people have a harder time to be able to figure out because the letter of recommendations where I've seen it being very difficult, for example, and this is just from my own prior experience, is that sometimes sports coaches, for example, just don't they might not necessarily they don't typically write the best letters of recommendations just from the ones that I've seen so far, just because like that might not be their skill set. So something to consider, right? It's okay to ask them like, hey, how comfortable do you feel like how comfortable would you feel to be my letter of recommender? And also, do you feel confident in being able to write about it? And also, a strategy that people don't realize that they could do is you can actually send a few bullet points to your recommender to be able to talk about. So think of it this way: if you know that you have to do like 2 or 3 essays, right? Imagine that your letter of recommender is being able to talk about a fourth attribute or a fifth attribute that isn't covered in your first ones, right? Remember that everything is a comprehensive review process, meaning that you want to share as many different sides about you as much as possible. And so have this discussion with them, be open with them, and uh, it might seem a little bit awkward at first to ask them, but just know that if they really care about you or they really want to support you, then they will be more likely to be open to this conversation. If they feel awkward about it and they don't want to talk about it, then that means that's possibly not the right person to be able to get support from. Okay. Okay. Let's go next one. Okay. Resume and extracurriculars. So likelihood is that you need to submit a resume, and your resume will include your professional experience and also your extracurriculars. So in terms of writing the ideal resume, you have to first research the company that you're trying to apply to. So if you're applying to any type of research program or internship or anything of the sort, you have to understand like what is their goal, what is their mission, and what are they looking for in this particular role. So for example, right, if you are applying to like a medical like institution or a hospital for an internship, right? Then make sure that everything that is related to the medical field or medical interest is at the very top of your resume. If you've done other things that are not related, so for example, like being a chef or being a server at a restaurant or something of that sort, that might not be as relevant. So you want to put that at the very bottom because it's not as related to the job that you're applying to. Second is to make it simple and clear design. You don't need anything fancy, all right? For a lot of these places, especially for high school students, they're not expecting like a very comprehensive or complicated resume. Just be able to make it super easy for someone to read. In most cases, people read resumes within 30 seconds, okay? They just scan it. So what that means is you want to make it as easy to scan as much as possible, going from the top down. Work experience to reflect the desired qualifications. So let's say, for example, that the job or the fellowship or the internship, whatever it is that you're applying to, is saying that we need this person to do a literature review on on some particular subject, right? Or to do research about a particular issue. Well, then the first things that you want to make sure that you do is that you try to create bullet points that reflect that particular action. So saying that you conducted research yourself or that you've done those things in the past. So that way you can be able to add it all together. Integrate keywords from the application requirements. So sometimes when there's a lot of applications, right, what they'll do is that they have software that automatically like disqualifies a whole bunch of resumes because there's just too many to review. So that's what they're using now with AI. They're using AI to swift through so many applications and see which one is a good fit or not because they just don't have the time. And so what that means is that you want to be able to integrate those keywords that they use in the job posting or the research or whatever the program is into your resume so that there's a direct match. Okay. Another kind of cheat code that you could also consider is using ChatGPT yourself. Okay. Imagine you could tell ChatGPT like, hey, imagine you are a job recruiter or a internship coordinator and you posted this particular job. How likely would this particular essay be a good fit for this essay or this resume be a good fit for this particular job? Okay, then ChatGPT will let you know, like saying like, hey, you might be a good fit or you might not be a good fit. So those are things that you could use to use AI to your advantage when you can, because you want to not be screened out by AI. So use AI to screen your application ahead of time. Next is to speak to the result of your action. That's why I mentioned with the STAR kind of method, right? Making sure that you're able to speak to the actual impact and the result, which a lot of students don't tend to do. We don't really care too much about your actions so much. We care more so about like what did that lead to at the very end. And lastly, proofread with multiple individuals. Some people don't realize that they should get it reviewed, and that's just something that a lot of students tend to mess up just because they just proofread it but just by themselves and they think that that's okay. All right. So we talked about like kind of the fundamentals of a good application, okay? So next is like, how do we actually put this into action and create a strategy for this in a month-to-month kind of way? Because now it's January, it's about to hit February. So let's walk through what you should be doing right now at this very moment. So first off, in January, you have 2 days left in January. So first off is ask yourself, how will you optimize your summer, okay? What do you think is it that you have an issue with? Is it an awareness issue that you're trying to still figure out what careers or majors that are there that you can potentially apply to? Is it a skills issue where you don't necessarily have the skill sets yet to actually get like an entry level job into a particular place? And or is it a motivation issue where you just don't feel like doing anything this summer and that you need something to kind of encourage you to kind of get out of the house, right? So first, that's the kind of first thing you can do. And also you can talk about this with one of the coaches as well if you are part of our programs and families already. In February, the next part is to do your research, okay? What are some possible options, right? And to consider looking at online, like do online searches, to look locally, which is, I think, the most powerful thing that you could, one of the most powerful things you could do, and networking, where you can be able to be more strategic. And I'll talk about that in just a bit. And the last bit is to keep track of your choices and deadlines in like an orderly fashion. So that way you could be able to look at all the summer programs and their deadlines. You want to write down the deadlines. You want to write down like what the requirements are. And so that way you know which one to apply to. At the very end, I'm going to write down how you can get this resource where we do have summer program ideas and you can get a whole list of different summer programs that we might recommend. And so stay till the very end so that y'all can access that and then we'll be able to send it to you. Okay. But first off, I want to kind of focus a little bit though on the online options. Okay. The thing about online research that is a bit challenging is a lot of other students are probably doing the same thing. Okay. if someone posts an internship online, it's more likely that you have hundreds or thousands of applications going to the same thing. So honestly, the things that you might find online might not necessarily be the best choice, especially for your bang for your buck. Okay. The second thing is local. Okay. Local, be able to learn from local organizations, nonprofits, and city government. Those are ones that don't really have that many applications. So I would encourage you to consider doing that as well. And networking, which I'll go into next for one of the things that you could do. So for networking, right? Uh, the question is you want to ask yourself is who do you know that might know information on relevant summer programs? Okay. It's more likely that many folks here have friends or families that have experienced summer programs that they could be able to vouch for, right? And the thing about these summer programs is, yes, there's like national known ones that you might typically see, but also there might be hidden kind of programs that you never knew even existed. So, for example, there's a lot of startups that actually tend to have summer interns that accept summer interns, but you won't know about it until you actually talk to someone because these places don't have the budget for advertising. They're not advertising these things out. So the best way is to connect with someone who might know somebody who might know a summer program. So again, this goes back to the informational interviews. Talk to as many different people as you can. Ask them the questions about like, hey, what summer program did you do back in the day? Or you can, if you're talking to another parent, right, asking them like, hey, did your kids participate in any summer programs in the past? So if you're a parent right now and you're watching and you know of other parents who have kids that are going to like top tier schools or interested in the same majors, then you want to ask those parents like, hey, what summer programs or what experiences did they do? And also, is there a way that I can get a connection to be able to participate in the same one? Because again, if you can network and talk to the right people, sometimes you can apply to summer programs without even needing to prep a whole application or anything of that sort. The best summer programs that I've seen, especially on resumes and applications, are those who get it from direct connections from their friends or family. So just know that those are good opportunities to consider, and especially given that it's possibly that it's free as well. Okay, in March, the next piece that you could focus on is your personal branding, applying, interviewing. So March is usually the time where a lot of these applications are due because they need a few months to be able to get back to you about like what are the results. So the first part is connecting your branding to the applicant profile. As I mentioned, right, you got to make sure that you do your research about the profile, about who they're looking for, right? You can write this out in your tracker as well in terms of what they're looking for or what's the description of the requirements. And then also trying to connect it to yourself. And so you want to write the applications, try to connect it to that. And also you want to review it with coaches because our coaches know how to write these strong applications. The worst person that you could talk to be able to review your application is actually your English teacher, because your English teacher might tell you about how to be more visual, how to be more eccentric, how to be able to tell a story. And like, yes, there's a component of storytelling, but the more important thing is like, how can you demonstrate the impact, the results that you had, and also the insights about what you want to learn? Again, imagine that uh, you, I guess like another analogy, imagine you have like a full-on puzzle, right? And there's a missing puzzle piece there that should go into this last spot. And that puzzle piece should be the summer program. And you're trying to articulate that in your application, meaning that you're showing that this application or this summer program is so pivotal and necessary part of your learning trajectory. And lastly, practice mock interviews if it's applicable. If you have to interview for a job or interview for a summer program, don't just go in blindly, right? Practice with your coaches, practice with other people, so that way you don't mess up and learning how to use like the STAR method when you talk in these interviews. All right. Now that we've gone through the strategy, let's talk about the common mistakes. I kind of already alluded to some of them, but let's talk about things that you should not do. Okay. So, oh, sorry. Okay. That is the wrong place. It kind of jumped. Okay. All right. So common mistakes and how to avoid them. First off, what is the profile looking for? A generic application is what you typically we typically see. So people who did not do the research did not realize that they were looking for a particular kind of applicant. And if you just create an application and just try to use it for every single same kind of posting for every single program, then that's not going to be helpful for you. Okay. You need to understand and do the research first about who they're looking for so that way you can connect with them. Next part is the lack of clear goals, right? So remember you don't want to just apply to any summer program out there. Yes, you could do that, but you want to be intentional, okay? Remember that the whole point of this college admissions process is to show how going to this particular college, going to this particular major, fulfills a particular desire that you have to reach a certain goal, right? Everything that you're doing up until you want to make it so clear that everything that you've been doing up until this point makes sense and very intentional about what you want to achieve in the future. The best essays, the best applicants can clearly articulate what have they been doing up until this point to be able to apply to college and why they want to apply to college and what is it exactly they want to learn. So be intentional about the summer program that you join. Don't just join any of them. You want to try to be able to maximize your time and prioritize it well. And that comes with the clear goal that you want to set for yourself. Next part is waiting too long to get started. Okay. Oh, so there's a difference between motivation and discipline here, where motivation, y'all probably gonna feel motivated after this webinar where you want to start applying after I send that resource out, and then y'all could be able to get as much of the summer programs as much as possible, right? And that's gonna like help you in the immediate term. But you gotta be disciplined in terms of setting time every single week, maybe an hour or so, to do research on the summer programs that you want to apply to, and also like working on those applications, okay? The whole thing about applications is you don't want to wait till the very end at the last deadline. You want to be strategic and you want to make sure that you prioritize your time well. So try to set a time, maybe along like a weekly kind of calendar invite for yourself or to do the research and to apply for these programs. And also the next thing that students tend to do is proofreading. Okay. Can you imagine if you received the application and there was typos in the application? What does that tell me about you, right? The thing is, so many of the applications I've read in the past, right? It's like the student didn't care to even try hard to make sure that their grammar was okay, that their spelling was okay, and just things that they don't realize was wrong. And also making sure that you proofread it with other people, right? So for this example, right, this person reads as a 6, this person reads as a 9. In ways, you want to make sure that everyone that reads this particular application sees it the same way. Students don't realize that sometimes when you write an application, what you're trying to articulate is not the same message that we get as readers. And as a reader, you want to make sure that your message is the same as what you're trying to communicate. So have multiple people read your application, because when you go to the college admissions process, you're not going to know who's actually going to review your application. So it's important to have multiple people so that way you could be able to get like a solid yes across all of them. Okay. All right, now the time that everyone's been waiting for is the resources and next steps to be able to kind of get ahead. So pay attention to this so that way that y'all can get access to the things that we share and that you can be able to get some ideas about what to do for this summer, okay? So first off, if you want this notes and replay, okay, just text 949-298-6234 for notes and replay. So that way we can give it to you. And I see in the chat, I'm sorry that there's some people who might not have received it in the past. We'll follow up on that and try to see what is it that we could do. So again, text 949-298-6234 for the notes and the replay on that. Next piece is the list of potential summer program ideas, okay? If you text programs to the same number, then you can get a list of summer programs that we've researched ourselves that we recommend to some students to consider. Know that there might be some cost associated with it because some of these summer programs do have some tuition maybe applied to it, but also there could be some free summer programs out there as well. So do consider like what is your budget and what you're willing to do. Again, you don't necessarily need a summer program in order to stand out on the application, okay? So text programs if you want to get that. Next, personal projects. I didn't really talk too much about this, but this is also a great way to be able to spend your summer. Working on a personal project where you are taking initiative on a particular issue that you care about or a particular topic that you want to gain more knowledge in. So students can create a personal project during the summertime, and that could be an excellent way that you can write it down on your resume or your activities. So text projects if you want our curated list of 100 personal project ideas that you could consider. And again, talk to your coach, right? If you're part of a program, talk to a coach first. And remember, the whole part about a personal project is personal to you. So don't just choose a random thing on the idea, on the list, I mean. Look for a few of them that stand out to you, take note of it, and then talk to your coach about, hey, these are some ideas that I had that I wanted, that I really resonated with, and I want to create my own personal project. So that way, this can just give you some ideas to get started. The next thing is if you are a junior, okay, and you're not a part of our program yet, know that we do have something called the College App Intensive, where you can participate in a 3-day workshop. There's going to be one day called Kickstart at the very beginning of the summer, where we teach you about how to brainstorm and how to get some ideas on what to write about for your personal statements or personal insight questions. And then there's the Accelerator, which is a 2-day event at the very end, where you leave with some great final drafts to be able to be confident in. So by the time that you go through this workshop, you should be able to have a full personal statement and or personal insight questions where you're just reviewing it and editing it once they start school again. So there's a website called collegeappintensive.com that you can go to. The prices will actually increase starting February 1st. So right now for the Kickstart and Accelerator programs, we go to different UCs across the state and facilitate these particular sessions. We actually already ran out of seats at Berkeley and some other places and other virtual times. So try to do it now so that way you don't lose a spot. Also, if you if you purchase it now or tomorrow, then you'll be able to save money. I think right now we're doing it for $997. Starting February 1st, it goes up to $1,500. So if you're on the edge, right, I would consider trying to do it right now because again, this is a way for you to reserve your spot and also have confidence about how to write your applications for college admissions. Okay. And remember, you only have one shot at this college admissions process, unless you decide to go down the community college route and apply again as a transfer. But you only have one shot, right? Really, right? So you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward. The next part, free 15-minute assessment call. If you really enjoyed this webinar and this training, right, schedule a free 15-minute assessment coaching session with our team. We'll help you answer a lot of questions about the college admissions process so that you understand. And also, we'll provide you an action plan about what you can do to increase your chances right now. Nothing is for sale on this call. You can buy anything if you wanted to. And the whole point here for this particular action plan is to be able to support you and help you get started. We fundamentally believe that all this college admissions process and all this knowledge should be free, right? And the reason for that is because it shouldn't be barred by a select group of individuals. We want to make sure that you get the support you need and that you understand the whole college admissions process. So let us help you out. And again, you can just walk away with the action plan and that's all it is, okay? And the next part, we do have a newsletter. In this newsletter, we send a weekly newsletter about what are some things that steps that you could do to prep for the admissions process. So you're going to get some helpful tips about like, hey, it's almost summer now. Have you thought about summer activities? So sign up for that listserv so that way you could be able to get some of those tips. And also we might send out a few scholarship opportunities later on in the future that you could apply to. So the whole goal is that eventually we're going to send a scholarship information on a regular basis. So that way y'all are constantly applying to scholarships and be able to maximize your financial aid. And this is something exciting. This is new, okay? If you're a part of our coaching program, we're actually about to release some new information really soon about our EagleLock research program and internship program. So just to kind of preview, if you are a part of our coaching family, you can actually purchase this as a separate service where you can actually get a research paper and get published, right? And that and being published and being able to work with a researcher can help you stand out on the admissions process. And so you'll be working with PhD researchers from Oxford and other types of top tier universities. And also you can get a credit from the UC San Diego extension, which can go on your college transcript. And that will also show that you have high academic rigor. So that's something that we're about to release soon. So keep a lookout for that. We're going to release more information. And then also the EagleLock internship program is another thing that we're releasing as an additional add-on. So this is where you can participate in an 8-week internship program where you're placed in a company. And this company is more likely virtual, where it's a startup or a small company where you get real life work experience. And so by the time that you finish it, you're going to get a lot of work experience to understand like, you know, what kind of career that you might want to go into. You'll probably get a letter of recommendation by the company. And also, if it works out with you and your supervisor, you could potentially get that as another letter rec that you can use for your admissions process. All right. So that concludes our webinar for today. Again, text programs, if you want to get that list of summer programs that we recommend. Text projects, if you want to be able to get those lists of 100 different personal project ideas. Text intensive if you want to get more information about the college app intensive, coach for the free 15-minute assessment call, and then news if you want to participate in that newsletter. Okay. Now we're going to move over to Q&A and then be able to answer all your questions that you have. So I'm going to stop sharing for a quick moment so I can bring up the Q&A. And okay, actually, let me bring this back. Okay. Resume. Okay. All right. So let me go through the chat and try to answer these questions from the very top. All right. If you could choose one, would you recommend a job shouting or volunteering? Uh, Particularly for me, I always recommend on the more career side, I would say job shadowing because it gives you a better sense of what the actual work experience that you want to do. Because that's going to tell you more information about what particular major that you might want to go down and what particular career that you want to work towards. Okay. How would you add that to the academic resume? I'm not sure what you meant by how would you add that. I'm not sure what's that mean. So I'll skip that question for now if you can clarify. Can we receive the sample templates for attending this webinar? Definitely. You, again, text the replay, text notes if you want to be able to get all those examples. Okay. Recording this presentation, yep. And how does GPA impact internship opportunities? Very little. GPA has no impact on internship opportunities because really for internship opportunities, what we care about is, can you actually do the job, okay? That's what it really matters at the very end. And that's why we always recommend doing some project-based learning or shadowing first before you go into internship, because it's likely that if you're doing internship for the first time, you don't have any experience. So try to consider doing shadowing or project-based learning first before you jump into that. Uh, and apologies if you requested a recording. Please let us know, like text us again and let us know that you didn't receive the last time, so that way we can escalate it. So that way it could be able to, we can make sure that you received last time's recording as well. How many companies should my kid apply for the summer internship on average to be able to get one? Oh, that's a good question. It really depends, right? Because the thing is, like, uh, it's the quality of the application itself. So what I recommend is like having like I think okay, maybe as like kind of a gut check, right? I would say anywhere between 5 to 10 kind of internships because it's likely that you're not going to get into every single internship, right? You don't want to just bank on one internship to be able to get in. So consider applying to at least 5 to 10 so that you have some options. And if you get accepted to 2 or 3 of them, that's great. That means that you get to choose which internship experience or which kind of summer opportunity that you want to focus on. So try to apply to a few. I would say 5 to 10 is a good range, but also if you work with the coaches too, you could be more intentional and increase your likelihood to be able to get in. Remember that if you're part of our coaching program, right, you have access to the college app essay service. Remember to submit that. So if you have a summer application, submit it through the college app essay service so that way you can get it reviewed within 24 to 48 hours. And secondly, remember that you have access to office hours if you're part of our families, right? So go to office hours and get it reviewed by a coach live, okay? Remember, my office hours are on Thursdays, 4 to 5 p.m. if you're part of our program. So that way you can come to me and then I can review your application on the spot as well. So take advantage of the office hours to get your applications reviewed by a coach. And also, I see people texting notes and replay and news into the chat. Remember that you have to text 949-298-6234 in order to get all that free resources. Okay. All right. Any other questions so far? Okay. My son works coding for a local company. Is this as good as a job shouting or internship? Yeah, definitely. I mean, in a way, that sounds like an internship in itself. If he's doing actual work, then that sounds like it's a internship in this case where he's getting work experience. What an internship really means is just that you are doing work, like work that is expected for this particular career or career trajectory. So in ways, anything that they're doing, like physically or producing anything, that's typically an internship experience. How do we apply if we don't know what major? Great question. So Uh, wait, is this a question about how do you apply to summer opportunities or apply to college if you don't know what major? So if you don't mind just clarifying that question, like applying to summer programs more so. Okay. So for summer programs, right, remember that it's really just about exposure, right? So meaning it's really helpful if your kid is like a ninth grader or eighth grader, where it's like uh you have a lot of time, right? So it's okay to participate in summer opportunities that they might not necessarily go with long term. And so with that being said, like as long as your kid is doing something, then that's going to be worthwhile. Secondly, the best way to kind of be able to get as much information as much as possible about a potential interest is informational interviews. Have your student or have your kid be able to talk to as many different professionals in the field as much as possible. And that's why we have a lot of coaches in our program too. Have them talk to the different coaches because all the coaches actually majored in something different. So, for example, for me, I majored in social welfare and got a master's in public policy. Yet I also work in tech, work in government, work in nonprofits. I'm sure that one of your kids can probably talk to me and really validate right away if they want to work in tech or if they want to go down the government pathway. Okay. Because I can tell them about my experience. So take advantage of the office hours to be able to talk to a coach so that way they can get a better understanding of what they want to do. So again, informational interviews is one going to be the most powerful ways and most efficient ways to be able to get some understanding. How can my daughter get shadowing opportunities at a hospital or a medical side? Ooh, great question. So strategy here, pro tip, if your kid is in the medical industry or interested in medical, talk to the local clinics, okay? Don't go for the big hospitals that like, Kaiser and like Kaiser does actually have a high school and does have an internship program, I think. I think there is a summer high school internship for Kaiser that you can look up. But the thing is, thousands of students are applying to the same one. So talk to a local clinic and also think about like specialty clinics, right? So for example, a chiropractor, right? I a psychiatrist, or actually a psychiatrist might be a little bit more difficult, but like or physical therapist or something of that sort. Those are the kinds of local clinics that you can talk to shadow. So if you just look on Yelp, for example, and look up like the local kind of clinics that for medical industry, you can probably just talk to them and ask them like, hey, can I intern here for the summer? And sure, the worst they can say is no, right? But you can also ask them the question, hey, if I can't intern at your place or if I can't shadow at your place, do you have any recommendations to any other places that might be a good fit, right? So you see what I did there is even if you get a no from a particular local clinic, you can always ask them like, hey, do you have any other recommendations for people like me who are interested in the medical field? So again, just kind of going out and just calling them, just talking to them. Any summer programs for marketing? Again, take a look at the guide that I sent you. There are some business ones there. And also with marketing, which is interesting, is that marketing can be applied to anything. Every single company needs marketing. So another thing to think about is, and I like this idea a lot, which is, I'm not sure about your students, but for me, I really love boba. Okay, if you like to drink boba, right, it's more likely every single boba shop needs a marketing person. So think about it this way: if every single small business needs a marketing person, right, it's more than likely that they need some help. So you can just try to figure out, talk to small business owners and asking them like, hey, do you need help with marketing? Well, like as I see on your social media profile, you don't actually have too much. So you can actually offer to them like, hey, is it okay I work as a marketing intern for you? Right? Again, these are like the strategies that people don't realize they can take advantage of. Okay. And I always tell people like stop trying to apply to all those big name programs, okay? Like do something locally because that's really honestly that's a way to avoid competition. Okay. How do we prove we did internship? So when you do the college application, you're going to essentially fill in your activities and the number of hours that you did. So it'll ask you how many weeks of the year have you done it and how many hours on an average week that you do it. In ways, they can't really validate everything, right? Technically speaking, and I don't encourage this at all. Technically speaking, people can lie on the application because they're not going to really validate each one. But we've read a lot of applications. We could tell if someone's faking it or not, which I have seen where I ask some students some questions and they don't really they are trying to make something up. Don't make it up. But anyways, you just need to list down the number of hours. Okay, I got accepted to around 4 pre-college programs. Wow, impressive. That aren't very well known. Is it still worth it to take pre-college programs? Yeah, totally. Okay. You don't need the prestige in order to stand out. Okay. Uh, is the more prestigious programs always better? Yeah, for sure. Like, of course. But is it still worth it? Like it's definitely worth it. And again, go back to the question of what's your goal? What is it that you want to learn? That's going to be really most important. This language skills starting early at kindergarten. Some specific schools offer Spanish immersion programs at kindergarten till fifth grade. Does that help in any way? Not necessarily. I mean, uh, just because your child went through an immersion program doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to like have a large significant impact. It's more so about like the uh unless like they talk about like Spanish later on and how Spanish was an integral part of their life and maybe it's relevant to them. It's more so about like uh what again goes back to the question, what do you want to study later on in college? What do you want to major in? What do you want to do? And how do you know that, right? And so if that immersion program is a part of that history or part of that like experience, then yeah, I guess so. But it's not necessarily required. It's not going to give you like a leg up. Okay, your thoughts on STEM education, public schools, classical versus Montessori methods. Uh, okay, this is just my thoughts as Coach Victor. This is not necessarily endorsed by Eagle Lock or College Admission Secrets. The way I see it is your competition is your local is going to be two groups of people, your geographical location and your high school. Okay. So what that means here is that if you send your kid to a very competitive high school, it's more than likely it's going to be much more competitive for them and more difficult for them to get into school. But also, will they be set up for success in the future by going to a better school? Yes. Like they will have probably more better experience, better academic skills and experiences to be able to do well. If you send them to a school like a public school that typically isn't as high performing, then technically it might be a bit easier for your student to be able to get into top tier colleges because again they're being compared to that average. What we see on the admissions end is that we see the number of average AP courses that the students take and compared to your student or the average kinds of courses that they'll take compared to your student. So that being said, everything is based off is all relative. Okay. So for example, if we were just treating everyone the same, technically all the students that come from like the top tier schools plus like top tier like neighborhoods or wealthy neighborhoods would technically get into these schools. But at the same time, that's kind of unfair and unjust. And so they will look at a comparison of the students across the whole school. So that being said, uh, my recommendation is just more so of understanding that by putting your student into the particular school, that will be who they're geared against in terms of the college admissions competition. Okay, my son is applying to MITES. He does not see any reason to mention in the app that he teaches saxophone and guitar at the local Suzuki school for pay, nor does he think that he should mention he is a lifeguard and safety. Should he mention or write about helping or finding kids knowing MITES in for engineering? Okay, so the way that we see it is for your college admissions process, you have four different personal branding elements, right? So maybe one is about engineering. Maybe second could be about music. Maybe third could be about I don't know, being a safety guard or whichever, right? What are the four different personal branding elements that he wants to be able to talk about himself? It's possible that he could talk about many different things, right? Uh, but are those the most four important things? And so in ways, right? Everything is additive, like meaning that no matter what you talk about, it's always going to be helpful as long as you can show that you learn something from it. If you learn something about it and you learn something about yourself or about what you want to study in the future, those are all helpful things. If you participate in like music uh, and let's say like you talk about how you just really enjoy playing and it's really like helps you release stress and it's one of the things that you're most passionate about, but you're also not able to go in depth about like what does it mean for you as a character? Like, does it teach you about work ethic? Does it teach you about like discipline? Does it teach you about like what is it about yourself that you're learning from this experience that matters about that is related to college? Okay. So that's something that you need to kind of press on about is what is the learning from those experiences? And that's going to be helpful for you. So in ways, like it's a great answer because it really depends on what is the personal branding that you want to discuss. Do colleges prefer dual enrollment for college courses or AP with AP exams of 5? So the way that we see it is like you want to have a lot of academic diversity, okay? If you take the same courses as your peers, right? And imagine that being the case, you're likely to look the same as everyone else, right? So the reason why we recommend dual enrollment is because you're able to take courses that your peers do not have. So try to diversify your academic rigor. It's not saying that you shouldn't take any AP classes, but you should take a mix of everything. Okay. I'm interested in pursuing the dental field, but my state has no opportunities for shadowing dental office. Applied to shadow a hospital, got accepted. Is it still a good shadow? Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, it's totally fine. I mean, think of it this way, okay? So, hospital and dental field, you don't have to be specific about your major or particular career path. There's three pathways that we talk about in admissions: the computer science and engineering pathway, the STEM and business pathway, and third is everything else. If you're generally in the STEM pathway, as long as you're doing anything STEM related, then it's fine. Just keep on doing STEM related stuff. Okay. And are there research programs for business majors? Good question. It's for business majors, it's more or less so of like research programs, more about internships really, because business is really more about like uh how like you could do econ research programs. So you can try to be able to talk to certain economics professors and see if you could do some study there. But I think for most business majors, you tend to go down the internship route or work experience route, and that's really going to help you there. Okay. All right. I know we're over time, but I'm hope that I was able to answer all those questions. Last call for any last minute questions, because I still see that there's a lot of people here. Going once, going twice. All right. All right. Thank you everyone for coming through. I hope that y'all got some knowledge there. Thank you all so much for your time, and see y'all next week if you want to join back for to learn more about what's next week's topic, actually. Uh, okay, I can't pull up the topics, but hope to see y'all next week.